All right, let's do this.
Yes.
3, 2, and 1. I'm Arizona Family political editor Dennis Welch.
Dennis, fake news Welch. Try to tell the truth.
And this is the Politics Unplugged podcast.
Dennis, if you have a problem with substance abuse, I am more than willing to talk to you anytime you need.
Welcome back to another edition of Politics Unplugged, the podcast. And I'm joined, as always, by the great producer, Colin.
Always a pleasure. Thanks.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here during these times.
Yeah.
It's once again another historic week.
I think that's been your intro every week for about 6 months.
If you can't pick up on the sarcasm, folks,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm laying it down. But the truth is, I'm tired of living in historic weeks.
Boring is underrated.
It is.
I kind of want to go back to boring.
It is, and it feels like I'm not saying everybody starts paying attention to politics after Labor Day. It seems like people maybe taken a little bit of a beat. It's a little bit calmer than it was, say, a month ago.
Could be.
It could be, but maybe I'm just getting used to the new normal.
Maybe. And maybe you're not attending a convention this week, so it seems calmer.
I want to be really clear. If there was a third convention, I would not do it. I don't think I could survive.
No, I think that would be
third
cruel and unusual to send you to another. There's a good reason why they only do it every 4 years.
As much fun as it was to cover the first two, I don't think I could survive a third convention.
No Green Party convention?
No.
Is there a Green Party convention?
I don't know, man. I think probably.
Like,
They meet up at a local Chili's.
They're at the Wow Hall in Eugene.
At the Econo Lodge off the I-40 somewhere.
Having a little locally sourced produce and having some spelt, meeting up in a yurt.
Wow.
Yeah, I spent 10 years in Eugene, Oregon, man. I can talk the talk.
It's a whole new language, man.
Yeah.
All right, so where do we start? I want to ask you, you started this last week. I want to make this a thing. Hopefully it becomes a thing, unlike fetch.
Okay.
If you get that reference, kudos. But for you, what was the political play of the week, Colin?
Thank you for giving me these things on a week when it's really, really easy.
Yeah, well, and the reason why is just like I just find it fascinating because you're back here, you're monitoring so much stuff, you're producing so much stuff, so you have a different take than like, you know what? If I'm out there, I'm talking to these folks, you have a different take.
Yeah, so I'm sitting in the newsroom watching the debate, logging the debate, getting ready to produce the stuff from that night, and people all through the newsroom are watching the debate. And then we hear, they're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. They're making a meal of the pets. And there's just a collective, oh my God, from across the newsroom. I mean, that's tough to beat. That goes down in debate lore.
I mean, it will be one of the most memorable, like to the rest of our days, it will be a memorable line from a debate. You go back and like memorable lines from like Ronald Reagan where he looks at Jimmy Carter and says, "There you go again."
Yeah. The Lloyd Benson, you're no Jack Kennedy.
Yeah. I knew Jack Kennedy and you're no Jack Kennedy.
Yeah. Less fun but memorable, the Gerald Ford, there is no Soviet domination of Eastern Europe line. That was like a campaign killer, and now we wouldn't even blink.
No. And then you just like, they're eating the. I was stunned by that. I was stunned that meme political culture had percolated to the national debate stage. I don't know. I mean, who does that get you? Where does that get you?
Yeah, no, it doesn't get you anyone. And it makes you, there's been a lot of speculation that people now have Trump's ear that probably shouldn't have Trump's ear, and specifically Laura Loomer, who is deep into this stuff, and
who's been seen, traveling with the president.
Yes, she was there for the debate. She was on his plane for the debate. She was with him for the September 11th memorial visit. She is a September 11th conspiracy theorist who says it was an inside job. She went to the memorial with them. And it's been seen more and more with him. And there are people, there are prominent Republicans who are uncomfortable, publicly uncomfortable with that. I mean, when Marjorie Taylor Greene posts on Twitter calling out Laura Loomer for racism.
Yeah, and she was referring to that cat and dog stuff about in Springfield, Ohio.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, is like...
Well, no, actually in this, she was referring to a Laura Loomer post that said if Harris is elected, the White House will stink of curry, and that all speeches will be outsourced overseas and you won't be able to understand them.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You got to. Yeah, it's hard for me to follow those crazy, wild, just embarrassing claims.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of concern about her, bending the ear of the president when it comes to this kinds of stuff. But, in the past, we've just seen that this kind of stuff, it doesn't affect Donald Trump.
No.
Is it, and I don't know if there's any reason this is going to affect him this time moving forward.
No, it just... and we keep questioning how many people are really in the middle of this. Are there undecideds? Are there swayable people? Or is it strictly a matter of enthusiasm on either side? I don't know that spreading the stuff that's blatantly false adds to the enthusiasm among Republican voters. It may be increasing the enthusiasm of people, everyone else who says, please make this stop. I don't want to listen to this anymore.
Well, in two, I mean, it's impossible not to make jokes about the former president saying such wild things, but there's a dark side to it because these kinds of claims are potentially dangerous.
They are. They've closed down schools. There are Haitian immigrants who say they can't leave their homes now. They had to shut down City Hall in Springfield because they were getting so many bomb threats.
Yeah. I mean, it's a dangerous thing, and because the concern is that there's going to be try to be somebody out there who wants to prove this story true. Yeah. And we've already seen on Twitter there are some far right extremists that have offered cash money for any proof of this.
Yeah. Go figure.
So,
and the other thing too is when we get so focused on that, we miss out on some of the other gems in the debate, like she wants to pay for the people from insane asylums who are now in our prisons to have transgender operations, and like there was a lot of extreme stuff in there that sort of get slipped on by because we're still going dogs.
They're eating dogs. They're eating the dogs. Yeah, no, and again, you can make light of it and make jokes about it. There's been plenty of that. I think my favorite meme that I saw was I think you sent me one where there was somebody had set the former president making that comment to the Peanuts theme song.
Yes, it happened to sync up perfectly. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. Yeah. And there's a whole remix version.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's easy, but there is a very serious side to this. I think that's crazy. I could not believe that the Arizona Republican Party actually took the bait on that, spent money on billboard. We don't know how much money. I haven't bought a billboard ad anytime in the last few years. I have no idea what those things run. But
there were like 12 of them.
They bought a dozen of them here in the Valley ahead of Trump's visit. I was really surprised that it got to that level. I mean,
and realistically speaking, if you're David Schweikert and you are locked in a battle that is expected to be very, very close for your congressional seat, and you look over and see that the state party, which has had money problems for the last year or so, is spending money on billboards on cat eating. I'm going to be kind of pissed.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of close races out there that they could be spending money on, and instead they're doing this with no gain. I mean, they're not trying to win votes with that.
It's a troll. It's a troll.
They want to go viral, and there's not a whole lot of value in going viral. There's no intrinsic value in going viral. And it seems like that's such a thrust of so many political commentators now. Yeah. They want that moment of going viral, and man.
Well, it could be a fundraising play. I mean, if it goes viral, everybody, you've got people seeing this all over the country. Maybe they scratch out a check, send a few bucks, the easy GOP way. That could be the strategy. I don't know. I've not had a conversation with anybody over there about why they decided to do this. So I don't know about that. But let's move on to the general thoughts on the debate, because it was more than just the eating dogs and cats.
Yeah, there was more to it. Bigger picture, it seemed like Harris did what she needed to do.
Yeah, polls show overwhelmingly, the legitimate polls show overwhelmingly. I should say that Harris won that debate.
Yeah,
and even a lot of Republicans I know would concede with that. And the question is, moving forward from that, is this going to create is it going to sustain the momentum that brought her back from being in such a deficit? Because when she took over for Biden, the Democratic Party was so far behind. Now it's a toss-up race. Is this going to continue to feed that type of momentum moving forward? If you look back at a lot of debates, normally it doesn't do that. However, if you look at the debate before this one with Joe Biden, that debate had a big impact on this race.
Yes, it had a huge impact. It changed the candidate.
Yes.
And there are a lot of people who just aren't that familiar with Harris going in, and now they're familiar with her. And, the polls show people found she looked presidential. She looked, she did what she needed to do. She showed she has a handle on the issues and was fairly unflappable and, spoke well. She seemed a little nervous for the first, 20 minutes or so, which is understandable, and settled down and did very well and was remarkable at getting under Trump's skin.
Well, and he just, everybody keeps using the same lines about taking the bait every single time, and he certainly did.
Yeah.
One of the other things that I'll remember and stuck out to me, we talk about, body language. I always think is one of those BS stories that, those BS political sidebar stories.
Yes.
But it was hard not to miss the fact that Donald Trump couldn't even look at Kamala Harris throughout that entire debate. And he just looked angry.
Yeah. He looked angry and stared ahead. She would be talking. He never, ever glanced at her.
No,
and she was looking at him all the time.
Yeah.
Not a glare, not just, but looking at him, and he would never look back.
Mm-hmm.
It was also sort of funny at the beginning that they, shook hands and she said, "I'm Kamala Harris," because he was reminded that was the first time they met.
Yeah, yeah. But I think it's going to have a positive impact for the Democratic candidate. I think because voters are starting to learn more about her.
Yeah,
and she's still introducing herself. This can only help.
Yeah.
You're going to see clips of this. Most people don't consume, political news like by watching the entire debate. They're going to see Donald Trump screaming about eating, cats and dogs being eaten. They're going to see the clips of, Kamala smiling at him or with her hand on her chin, and responding to that's how they're going to meet and be introduced to Kamala, and I think that's going to have a positive impact. And in races, again, it goes without saying that are this razor tight, particularly in battleground states like Arizona, it could have a big impact down the road.
It could. The ratings were actually pretty good for this. I mean, it was up significantly from the last debate. But you're right. Most people don't sit and watch 90 minutes of it. A lot of people will consume it through clips on TikTok, Instagram.
They probably watched the first half hour, so they got to see the cats and dogs.
They got to see, yeah. And then decided it was probably time to put the kids to bed.
Well, it's like watching an Agatha Christie movie, and this like they tell you the killer is like half hour into the movie. Like, I don't need to watch the rest of this.
Yeah. Oh, we've left the rails now. Wonder where we're going.
I mean, what more did you need after that? It was like,
Yeah,
there you
that
go.
pretty much summed it up.
Either you're on board or not, man. I mean, that's one of those line of demarcations, right? You see that? Like, you're either with them or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say about the debate that hasn't already been said. I just think in Arizona, regardless of that debate, Kamala Harris is still going to have a tough time winning the state because the record on immigration is problematic. Immigration is a top issue here. She's got her work cut out for her here.
Yeah.
And
there are going to be a lot of factors here. Abortion's on the ballot. That will be a plus for her. We'll see what the enthusiasm is. Enthusiasm for Kari Lake seems to be fairly low. So that probably helps. I don't know how much the lower item on the ticket affects the top item. You usually think it's the other way around. But there's going to be probably a lot of enthusiasm on the left that may not fully be there on the right. There are certainly plenty of people who are enthusiastic Trump voters.
Yeah.
There are certainly fewer people now who are enthusiastic Lake viewers.
Well, I just got to say, are you more enthusiastic about the new thing or the old thing? Because this is going to be the third time people are going to fill out a ballot with his name on it. Third one in a row.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yes.
That is that probably hasn't happened since.
Yeah, I don't even. Yeah, I'm not
FDR.
I'm not enough of a historian on that one. Probably, yeah.
Yeah, we're somebody's won a nomination 3 times in a row.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Even Nixon took a break in '64.
Yeah. And it's a reminder that it comes down to state by state math because he lost the popular vote both times.
Oh yeah.
Polls would suggest right now that he probably wouldn't fare well in the popular vote, but that's not how it works. Mm-hmm. It's it's state by state. One other I think thing that I thought was a smart move was from Harris talking about Ukraine when she pointed out she suggested that if Trump were president, he'd be sitting in Kyiv right now, or Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now, and his eye would be on Poland because Poland's the next spot after Ukraine.
Yeah.
And Pennsylvania figures to be a very, very key
800,000.
state. And there are 800,000 Polish Americans living in Pennsylvania. My grandmother lived in Pennsylvania. Her maiden name was Szykowski. There's a whole lot of Polish influence.
She's not French.
In Pennsylvania. Szykowski not French, no. She married an O'Malley.
Yeah, I read an interesting piece too in, I believe it was a conservative writer in the New York Times, David French. The headline was, Kamala Harris is serious, Donald Trump is not. And it was about preparation for that debate. And that line, I'm sure she had prepped for.
Yeah.
It was fed to her by her consultants.
Yes.
But she took, her homework assignment serious. She had all of that stuff available. Donald Trump, I read a ton of stories, wasn't preparing. He was just going to ad lib, wasn't taking it serious.
And
it showed.
Yeah, the effect of that was he was asked questions that anyone could know was coming and seemed broadsided. Mm-hmm. The abortion issue, he was asked if he would sign a federal ban on abortion, and he would not answer it. And the answer he gave seemed to suggest he didn't even fully understand the question because when they said, would you sign a federal ban, his response was, it doesn't matter. She doesn't have the votes for it. Yeah. And that's not the question.
Yeah, but again, the political laws of physics that typically dictate, politics in this country don't apply to him.
They don't seem
like
to.
How can Donald Trump give a trite political dodge to a question? And he was dodging that question.
Yeah.
and not pay the penalty that other politicians pay when they dodge questions like that.
I don't know. And we're what, nine years into the Trump as serious candidate thing. The national media still has not figured out how to cover him, or they just won't do it.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't get questioned on that. He doesn't get held to the same standard.
No, and we've talked a little bit about the double standard in covering. Like if Kamala skirts an issue, it gets written about.
Yeah.
It gets reported on. I mean, and she she didn't answer all the abortion questions that were put in her direction.
Right.
I think there was a question like, would you allow abortions in the 8th month or something like that? And she didn't answer that question. And I guess she didn't want to be put in a box, and she was dodging that. But that's something I saw that was reported on. But Donald Trump, is just held to different standards.
Yes. And realistically, I mean, you put another Republican in there, you put Nikki Haley in that seat, and she probably gets held to a standard that for whatever reason.
Well, that debate would have been very different because I believe Nikki Haley would have taken that debate, the homework assignment, serious. She would have prepared for that.
Yeah. But you put another Republican in the seat, they're not getting away with this.
Yeah.
And the national media is not. There's this same old Donald thing, and I don't know if they're just worried about getting the attacks online or what, but they won't question it.
It's interesting because it's a problem. I think we deal with, and all media deals with. Like how what do you do with this?
Yeah.
I mean, what would happen tomorrow? And I hate the whataboutism stuff, but what would happen tomorrow if Kamala Harris started talking about, people can't afford bacon and windmills?
Yes.
And cancer-causing windmills, all in the same sentence.
The cancer-causing windmills that kill eagles, and what happens if the wind doesn't blow, so no one buys bacon anymore.
I mean, that's
that outside of social media coverage, man, that didn't get a blip. That got nothing.
It or the shark attacks and batteries.
Yeah, we can't have electric planes because what if it gets cloudy?
There's a lot.
There's a lot there.
There's a lot there. There's a lot there, and if Kamala or I don't want to say any other politician.
Yes.
Lindsey Graham says that it gets covered. Like, what is going on here?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And crickets.
And just crickets. So we just accepted it?
I guess. Yeah. It's a strange world.
Yeah, it is a strange world.
And then we got the Taylor Swift endorsement that everyone had been waiting for.
And I think, and I've said before, and I could be very wrong, I think her endorsement is different than other celebrity endorsements. This is a woman who carries an enormous amount of influence. We've seen that on the NFL.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Instagram post she made included a link to vote.org. I think it was a voter registration link that expires after 24 hours. In the 24 hours since she posted it, more than 400,000 people clicked through that link. Mm-hmm. That's an impact.
It's a big impact.
And, in 24 hours, more than 400,000 people clicking through from her endorsement.
And again, with razor-thin margins, that decides these elections. I mean, because you and I sometimes, we seen the news story and just start laughing because MSNBC or CNN or Fox will be, doing airing a piece, and you'll see the lower third that says fill in whatever block of voters key to 2024 election.
Yeah.
And you and I always laugh and make fun of that because it's like, dude, in close races like this, every block of voters freaking matters.
Yes. Yes. Every little bit matters. Yes. And and every election since Clinton, I think, has had this is the one where the youth vote's really going to be key, and then the youth don't vote.
Yeah.
I think during Obama we saw a little more youth vote, but still not much. So if you can actually get young people to vote, that's a huge thing.
And not a lot of them. And you don't need a lot of them.
No.
But she is somebody, again, I can't belabor this point, but she boosted ratings for NFL games. How the hell does that?
It's if you could move the needle on the NFL, which is Goliath.
It's the most successful television program in the history of TV.
Yeah, yeah, and she brought in a whole new audience for it.
Yeah, it's just amazing. And I'm not saying it's going to win her the election. I'm just saying it's a different kind of endorsement.
Helps. And you can't look at it as a standard celebrity endorsement. Yeah. It's an endorsement that brings with it a level of activism that you haven't seen.
I mean, if you ask any generic politician out there, who do you want? Taylor Swift or Ted Nugent and Kid Rock?
You forgot Hulk Hogan. Yeah.
Does Hulk Hogan sing?
Yeah. Remember that he had an album, or he was part of a wrestling album. That I am a real American. Fight for the rights of every man. Yeah, it was brutal, but yeah, he had something. I think it was just a single on a general like WrestleMania album.
I'm not a fan. Never have been a real fan of Hulk Hogan.
No.
I mean, he did a pretty decent job of like Thunder Lips in Rocky III. Was that his name?
Maybe his best work, yeah.
His best work was his Thunder Lips.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man. Speaking of that, maybe we should, before we move on, is anything else you want to hit from that debate?
No, I think
this political week. Because it really had been dominated very much so by the presidential debate. I like to keep this podcast. I like to keep the TV show Arizona centric, but just certain events just overtake everything, and this is probably the only debate that we're going to get from them.
I saw they proposed one at ASU. CBS News wants to do one at ASU.
Right.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Good luck with that.
Yes.
I mean, there's no reason for Donald Trump to sit down for another one.
No.
He's done 2 now.
No. I think Harris is probably very comfortable. I think Harris is more likely to agree than Trump, but I think she's comfortable with where she ended after the first one, and I don't think Trump wants to do it again.
And frankly, too, I mean, maybe it's still a political reporter that's just follows this stuff too close, but who needs to know anything more about Donald Trump? Yeah. And I think anytime there's a certain sense, like every time Donald Trump is on the ballot at this point, it is a referendum on Donald Trump.
Yeah.
To a large extent.
Yes.
And yes, there are issues out there, and save your emails and all that other kinds of stuff. But there are issues out there. But at the end of the day, it's always it's going to be a referendum on Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Just like when Arpaio, this last couple of election cycles, he'd been in what more do you need to know about him?
Yeah.
You know everything.
Yeah.
And frankly, again, the fact that Trump has already done 2 debates this year, I don't think there's anything to be gained at this point by doing a third.
No, I don't think either one really gains anything at this stage.
No, not at this point.
I think it was Chuck during the TV show said, if Trump hits a point where he feels he's behind and needs to do something, then maybe the math changes.
Well, but even now, because I thought that's typical with candidates. I'm sure our smart audiences are astute enough to know that when you start seeing people clamoring for debates, that person, that campaign is probably the one that's behind.
Yeah.
And Trump and his people know that if they do see that, if they do have to start clamoring for another debate, that will be read that way.
Yes.
So I still think it's about 2 months to the election at this point. If there were betting markets on this thing, I'd go long on there will be no second debate between Harris and Trump.
Yeah, with you there.
Yeah. So, speaking of betting odds,
how about the Sun Devils? They looked pretty good yesterday.
Didn't you put $5-6 grand on that?
And more like lunch money.
Okay.
But on ASU came through.
By the way, I was joking about that.
Yes. Got a text from my youngest, who's a sophomore at ASU, said, "You watching the game?" I'm like, "Yeah, Scattaboo looks pretty darn good." He's like, "They need to build a statue of this guy."
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
He's been phenomenal.
Yeah, no. For ASU fans, I hope it all works out, man. I mean, they deserve a good football team, which they haven't had in a few years now.
And my school's no longer in the same conference, so I can root for ASU.
Oh,
be happy to see them do well.
But the Pac Pacific Athletic Conference is not
the Pac-2 going up to the six-pack.
Yeah, the six-pack. They're not dead.
No, but my God, it's like absolute riffraff. I mean, okay, Boise State, sure. San Diego State, cool. When it looked like they might hold together the Pac-12, I thought, yeah, sure.
Don't you besmirch Colorado State, because I think we're all Colorado State this week.
Yes, this weekend we're all Colorado State fans.
Don't you besmirch the Rams.
As they take on Coach Prime. And who was the other pack of losers they brought in? There was one more. God, I don't know. Boise State. Oh, Fresno State.
Oh, yeah, Fresno.
Mighty Fresno State. And they still need to have at least two more. And they say, well, since we made our announcement, we've got a lot of people expressing interest. And I keep seeing everyone going, what about UNLV? UNLV seems like a perfect fit. Oof. Jesus, man, really?
Oof.
And then, they're immediately people said, well, maybe they'll get Cal and Stanford back. And I thought, yeah, you think the people who run Stanford University, you think the chancellor at Stanford University is looking at this going, we could align ourselves with UNLV and Fresno State. No,
that'd be unfair.
They'll eat the travel money.
That'd be unfair, like Stanford, because Stanford will just like dominate those schools, and it's going to be like, not only did we kick your ass, we're going to be your boss too.
Yeah,
in the future.
I mean, maybe they will. Their football team's been pretty bad for a while. They'll certainly dominate Olympic sports.
It's still better than Fresno.
Yeah, usually, yeah.
And they've got a better history of that every few. I mean, every few years they usually had a banger of a squad.
Yeah.
A couple of good quarterbacks come from there, John Elway and Andrew Luck.
Yeah, they've had a few.
Yeah, they haven't been good since Harbaugh left, but they'd probably be the odds-on favorite every year to win the newly constituted pack, whatever it is. Yeah. If they can get another couple of, because I think they need the pack. The 6-pack needs to be an 8-pack.
It needs to be an 8-pack to be fully. Yeah, so they'll probably add a couple more.
Mm.
So we can look out for mighty UNLV, and I don't know if they go for Nevada or like New Mexico.
Man,
it's terrible.
Well, you mind if we move on to real quick on NFL? Because I'm emotionally just not over the Iowa loss to Iowa State. That was a tough loss for me last week. I wasn't emotionally prepared for that tough loss and the tough loss with the Cardinals. It was a terrible football week for me.
Yeah.
And it made my dog Joan sad.
Oh, you don't want Joan to be sad?
No, she was sad.
You're making Joan watch Iowa games? That doesn't seem right, man.
You gonna call the authorities on me now?
I might. Joan's a sweet little dog. Don't loop her into this.
Don't get her into this life.
Misery.
It was just terrible. So I could really give a shit about Big Ten football until Iowa's got a big test this weekend against Troy.
Yeah. We'll see. And Oregon's got Oregon State.
That's
the battle that was formerly known as the Civil War. Weird doing that week 3. Mm-hmm. I know Washington's got the Apple Cup this weekend. It's weird that it's week 3, but whatever.
Mm.
I'm still adjusting the whole Big Ten thing because, truth be told, the Big Ten has like 32 teams, and I give a shit about 3 of them.
And you're not in the conference schedule yet, so
no, so we can't. We're not, building the deep rivalries with Rutgers and Maryland and Indiana.
I know. Well, do you guys get any Buckeyes or Wolverine action?
Yeah, we are home against Ohio State, I believe, on the road at Michigan.
Yeah, I was really hoping that Oregon could do some damage to Ohio State because that's really my least favorite college football program in the country.
And we beat them last time we played them.
Yeah, but
We're not looking great this year.
I was going to say you're.
It's been a slow start. That's a
I'm
sure we'll get in gear.
The good
at
thing
some
about
point.
college players is they get better.
Yeah.
But
If our offensive line could do that soon,
it'd be great.
it'd be great.
It'd be great.
Yeah.
Give me some hope. I want hope from my Arizona Cardinals this weekend. Because I firmly believe that if they start 0-3, it's just like it's going to be maybe even worse than last year.
Yeah. Is the Rams?
Yeah.
I mean, Rams are kind of banged up.
Yeah.
Puka Nakua's hurt, isn't he? I think he's out for a few weeks. So
Okay.
Does that help?
You're not giving me a whole lot. I think
No.
I think Arizona's lost
No.
eight consecutive division games, NFC West games.
That's not great. Some of those were without Kyler.
Without K1. Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
Besides the tragedy last night in that Bills game,
Yeah.
which was terrible.
For those who don't know, Tua Tagovailoa got hit in the head again. It's, I think, his 5th concussion.
He was fencing on the field
doing
again.
the fencing position. Any time the immediate analysis after a game is he needs to sit down with his wife and talk about what's important, that's bad for a football player.
Bad for football. But, other than that, I looked at the result of that game and thought, well, maybe the Cardinal loss to the Bills last week wasn't so bad.
Yeah, Buffalo looked pretty good last night.
They look really, really good.
Yeah.
Which, with Arizona going into Buffalo last week and, at one point leading 17-3.
Yeah. Cardinals played a solid half last week.
They did, and they could have won it at the end.
Yeah.
Had it not been for some dropped footballs and some bad play calling.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they should be in it. We'll see.
You're not really giving me a whole lot.
I'm not. I don't really have it.
Well, I count on you, man. You give it to me straight.
Okay. Good.
Anything else we should be hitting up? It's been a long week. I'm exhausted.
It has. So there was I told you I had a concert story for you that I've been meaning to tell you. I figured, I'll tell you on the pod. You ever go to setlist.fm online?
No.
It is a website that is a listing of concerts and the set lists that were played at them. Mm-hmm. And it's remarkable in how complete it is. People go to concerts, they go to setlist.fm, and they fill out, what was the set list for the show. And so it's this great resource to see who is played where. And I was bored and I was on setlist.fm. And I thought I'd see who's played in my hometown. Mm-hmm. Because I'm from Fullerton, California. There aren't really concert venues there, but there's Cal State Fullerton. There's some place in there, bars and stuff where people will play. And this is how I discovered a bit of a history. So in the early 80s, 82-ish, down the street from me, probably less than a mile from my house, there was a roller rink called Roller Village that was there all time I was growing up. So we'd go to Roller Village at birthday parties and stuff. It was a roller rink. And around 81 or 82.
Those were huge in the 80s.
Yeah. The Roller Village was purchased by Billy Barty, the actor.
Really?
He's a little person.
Yeah, he was in Wizard of Oz. And
yes. I believe Billy Barty was one of the Munchkins.
Yeah.
And so he was, and by the 80s, it's not like he was working much, but he was still quite famous because he was an actor and he was a little person and he showed up on talk shows and stuff. He bought Roller Village and renamed it Billy Barty's Roller Fantasy and announced that when people came to Orange County, they would be visiting the Big Three. And the Big Three were Disneyland, Knott's Berry Farm, and Billy Barty's Roller Fantasy.
Love it.
And the plan was that they would change the decor. Every time you went, it would be a totally different experience because they would completely change everything constantly. So it was never the same. That was going to be the gimmick. What I didn't, and I remember all that because, again, I live less than a mile from the place. Mm-hmm. I remember all that at the time. What I don't remember from the time, and I didn't know about, was they had concerts there. Mm-hmm. So this is, and it lasted a year. Billy Barty's Roller Fantasy lasted a year.
It seemed like a lot of overhead for a roller rink. You're going to you need a lot of people rolling to pay the bills there.
The whole Big Three thing never fully caught on The people going to Disneyland did not necessarily feel they had to make a stop at Billy Barty's Roller Fantasy. And it wasn't a big place. It was a, small roller rink. It has since been like an Acura dealership and a thrift shop and stuff. But again, they had concerts there, which I discovered looking at setlist.fm and seeing the listings for concerts in 1982.
Oh, boy.
Metallica.
No way.
Yes. Metallica played Billy Barty's Roller Fantasy in Fullerton, California. I think I was a sophomore in high school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't know about it. And I mean, Metallica was not my steez then. I wouldn't have gone to see Metallica. I would have gone to see New Order, who also played there. And also Motorhead.
Ooh.
Not all on the same bill, separate.
I met Lemmy once.
Did you?
Backstage at the Nile. So back like during it was definitely there were peaks and valleys with bands, and this was definitely a valley.
Yes.
This would have been around the time the Headbangers Ball had been taken off of MTV. Why do I remember that? Because he was encouraging people who showed up to sign a petition to bring back the Headbangers Ball. For those of you too young to remember, a Headbangers Ball would play at night, and it was just metal music.
Yeah.
It was like an hour or two, and it usually followed 120 minutes, which was like
Alternative college rock.
College
stuff,
rock.
yeah.
You'd see like for example, on 120 minutes, you'd see Pixies.
Yeah.
You'd see Pixie videos and stuff like that. Headbangers Ball, Motley Crue,
Motorhead.
and Motorhead.
Yeah.
There couldn't have been more than 50 people at the Nile to watch, Lemmy play that night.
Yeah.
But my God, that guy was the embodiment of rock and roll.
Yes.
I mean, like, this is like late 90s, whatever. And he's just, not moving great, and he's coughing and all this other stuff, man, and just kind of howls up on stage, man. But as soon as he hits that first chord, dude, it's on.
That's great.
Yeah. Metallica playing Billy Barty's
Roller Fantasy in 1982.
You should
So
look.
that's early.
You should look and see if anybody's got a flyer for sale.
Yeah. God, I can't imagine.
That'd be great if you could find that and you like frame it.
And it had their set list, and it's early. And again, I'm not a Metallica guy.
That would have been
I
with
have a
Dave.
kid who's a Metallica guy.
That would have been with Dave Mustaine.
Yeah.
And pre-Cliff Burton.
Yeah. The one thing I remember from the set list is I think they played Whiplash, and it said in parentheses like world premiere. No, I don't know the song. Again, I'm not a big Metallica guy, but
wow,
yeah,
it's a very famous song of theirs off their first record, Kill 'Em All.
Okay,
yeah.
Apparently, its world premiere was at Billy Barty's Roller Fantasy.
Something. The lyrics are "acting like a maniac," drum fill, Whiplash.
All right,
yeah, there you go.
Yeah. I could have experienced that.
I was so big into Metallica,
and then
when I was
rode my bike home.
Billy Barty's Roller Fantasy.
Billy Barty's Roller Fantasy, the big three.
Yeah, somebody should write a book on what tanked the roller rink industrial complex.
Yeah, I'm going to go rollerblades.
Yeah, probably. But
they were a little cooler, and people were willing to do it outdoors
and faster.
Yeah. Yeah.
But because those roller rinks used to be everywhere. And
yeah. We even had roller disco.
Oof. We had one in my hometown, my small hometown in Iowa, Burlington, Iowa, and then they had like the slow skate where you would skate with your girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, and they would turn on a blue light. It was the blue light did whatever, and I never had a partner for one of those.
I'm sorry.
Made me the tough man I am today. Anyway, but I just I remember the 80s, those things were huge, and that Billy Barty tried to get in on that.
Yeah, he wanted some of that roller disco magic.
better actor.
Lasted about a year, became a thrift shop, and then like a dealership.
Better acting skills than business acumen.
Yes.
All right, here's the deal. We'll end it here because
backing from the lollipop.
We're just rambling
guild.
now, but I'll just end it here. But here's the deal: it's a roller rink, right? Yeah, but every week we change everything.
Yeah.
Seems expensive, Billy, dude. It's good.
I'm Billy Barty.
I'm Billy Barty, man.
Don't forget who I'm talking to. Yeah.
I'm Billy Barty.
Yep.
I buy and sell.
Got chunks of guys like you in my stool. Seems like a good place to end it, right?
Yeah, we can't. You gonna put that on the 3 o'clock?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think maybe they'll get Taylor Swift. Seems like a 3 p.m. news excerpt kind of topic.
Was that a quote from Phil Hartman doing?
The Sinatra group.
Doing Sinatra.
Doing
yeah.
Sinatra.
That was killing me.
Talking to Billy Idol, I believe, who was played by
yes.
Sting.
It was killing me. I'm like, where did that come from?
Yes.
I know this.
I read that Phil Hartman once talked to the writer of the sketch years ago and thanked him for allowing him the honor of reading the best line that had ever been written for television, which is, I got chunks of guys like you in my stool.
I gotta stop, man. It's been a long
It is
week.
one of the all-time great sketches.
Oh man,
It had Steve and Edie.
yeah.
Sinatra telling, "Hey, you two are swimming in my wake."
Didn't Bjork wasn't part of that or something like that?
No, it was
that-
Jan Hooks as Sinead O'Connor.
Oh yes.
So it was Sinatra, it was Steve and Edie,
And
it
he
was
was
Billy Idol and and
yeah.
Sinead O'Connor.
Yeah,
and every time he
yeah.
called on, it would be like, "All right, Mr. Clean."
He was such a prick to everybody on that.
Wonderful.
If you haven't, man, you
That
gotta.
was
I
great.
gotta go look this up on YouTube. And if you haven't, oh, God,
Yeah, the Sinatra group from Saturday Night Live. It was classic.
I think we'll end on that, man.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Thanks for listening. You can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, the Google Store, or anywhere else you get your podcasts. See you next time.